What is up, party people? What it do? What it is? Coming at ya. Cleopatra coming at ya. Live and direct coming at you from the middle of nowhere, the center of everywhere. Queens of the Stone Age. So what's up? It's Jerry. I'm here to talk to you today, give a little first impressions on the on the Purge Anarchy. This is like the 7th take of this. Because things just keep busting up the chops. So yeah, I'm here to talk to you about the Purge Anarchy, sequel to the pretty popular first film, The Purge, from last year. Joint production between Platinum Dunes, which is Brad Fuller and Michael Bay's company, and Blumhouse, which is Jason Blum, who I'm a big fan of. You know, they do a lot of these sort of micro-budget spook house movies and stuff, and I like their approach, and I like what they do. And the first Purge is a movie that I think is okay. I like parts of it. I've only seen it the one time, but it sort of struck me like the first half felt very wooden to me the first time. A lot of the dialogue was very stiff and stilted, and even some of the performances kind of came across as stiff. But I thought it got a lot better in the second half when it became that home invasion movie. And I know a lot of people were sort of taken aback by the fact that it was a home invasion movie because, you know, you have this very sinister idea of the world where for 12 hours on one specific day all crime is legal. And you know, I don't think home invasion is a bad way to go with that, but I do understand the notion that it's not what everybody thought it would be, and it's not perhaps what everybody hoped it would be. If you found yourself bummed or sort of disappointed that we didn't get to venture out into the world during the course of the first movie, fear not. Or perhaps more, because in the sequel, we definitely do. For all intents and purposes, it seems like the sequel is kind of what people wanted the first movie to be all along. And I get the sense that with the first film, they were testing the waters. You know, they only had about $3 million, I think it was, to make it. So, you know, I get the sense that they probably wanted to see if this would work so that if it did work, they could come back and make a sequel that had all the means to be what they really wanted it to be. And they certainly deliver on it in this one. I gotta say, I mean, I know there's some mixed reviews going on. I really like this movie. I liked it a lot more than the first one, for sure. This movie improves upon the first film in pretty much every conceivable way. This is one of those movies that no matter how, you know, in your face the actual execution is, the idea is always something that's sort of very jarring to me. So I found this movie scary partly just because, you know, you imagine the things you would need to make it possible aren't that far-fetched. So this is the kind of movie that I find very sort of inherently jarring and sort of upsetting. So that works very effectively as a horror movie, but I can understand why, you know, you might be a little about it. I really like the cast in this, especially, I mean, I love Frank Grillo, and I'm really happy to see him getting work, and he's great in this. I mean, I hope he gets more leading work and stuff like that. He's really good in this movie. But the whole cast is believable. You don't necessarily get to know their characters super well just because it is one of those situations where you're locked in with them in this semi-real-time experience. So it's immediate, you know. You only get to know as much as you would get to know in a scenario like that. But all the leads are good, especially the sort of core 5 people we're following. They're all, for the most part, very natural and believable. You get the sense that these people are actually just people. And there are certain things that they throw into these characters that make them feel, at least to me, a bit more real. You know, everyone behaves differently under certain stressful situations. But yeah, I really liked the main cast, and I liked a lot of the supporting cast too, especially when you get into these crazy people who think it's their God-given right to purge and all that stuff. And this movie is definitely cool because you get a slightly more broad view into, you know, who is purging, who's not purging, why, you know, what are the different views of different people on this night. And it, you know, it expands a little bit more on the society. It's definitely a sinister movie. It's got a really sinister tone about it. And there were a lot of times where I was cringing and just sort of being upset by at least the ideas. There are some sinister implications, but for the most part, everything is handled in what feels like the right way. And this movie takes certainly a more political approach in this world, because you have this sort of class warfare thing going on where the people are starting to rebel against the idea of the Purge. Like, there's an underground group that is basically saying the new founding fathers are corrupt and they're doing this to cut down on the poor and to make more money and all that stuff. There's some really unsettling, just sort of messed up psychology. And all the technical stuff is good. I wish they hadn't used so much CG blood, but it's really well shot. It feels very claustrophobic and very paranoid. The look is cool. The designs are cool, just of these different, you know, people out in the streets with these masks and these things that are going on. And in the scripting, there are some really cool surprises and some little things you won't see coming. And those help to keep it, you know, moving along and keep it fresh and keep you hooked on it. So I really like this movie, man. I think it's a really effective, really sinister little horror flick. And I think for a lot of people, this is gonna be the movie you wish the first one was. Not to take away from the certain merits the first one does have, because I think it does have some. But I certainly enjoyed this movie better overall. I think it's much more consistent. And I liked, you know, the stories they chose to tell and the people they chose to set it around. So I think they did a really good job with this movie. I'm happy to see that for them. So, yeah, so this is a sinister idea. It's a very upsetting idea. So what did you guys think? I mean, if you've seen The Purge 2, how do you think it stacks up to the first Purge? What would you like to see the next Purge movie be if they do another one? Because, you know, it's like we've had the claustrophobic stuck in a house movie. We've had the out in the real world movie. You know, what do you think they could do next? And, yeah, that's it. Until next time, I'm Jerry. The Purge Anarchy is the film. And cheers.